Hey everybody, I am Meredith Holly. If you don't know me, I'm a lawyer and certified life coach. I help employees stop sexual harassment without quitting their jobs, and one of the ways I do that is by helping companies create healthy workplace cultures. Happy Easter, and you may not want to talk about work on Easter, but today, what I want to talk to you about is how to be more productive at work and how to help other people be more productive also. Um, One of the reasons I want to talk about this is because it is Easter, and I talk to some managers and some employers who want to know how to make their workforce respond on holidays. And then I talk to employees who want to really protect their time and their boundaries on holidays, but still be productive. And so you can watch this later if you're one of those people who doesn't want to think about work on a holiday. But I wanted to hate on this. I wanted to talk to you whether you want to protect your time on a holiday and not think about work, or whether you want to help people be more productive, and you might think that includes engaging on a day like Easter in work. Today is a work day for me, and so I am going to talk to you about how to be more productive. So what I want you to do is think about somebody that you know who you just think has so much potential, is so smart, is so talented, and just can't seem to use their full potential or manage their time very well. So take a minute for yourself, think about that person, and we're going to dedicate this Facebook Live to that person with an abundance of love. And a lot of times when we're talking about people who have a lot of talent, who just can't seem to manage their time, can't seem to focus their energy. I hear some people say, oh, that person's just lazy, or that person just doesn't care, isn't engaged, doesn't care about something, they're not motivated. Or on the other side, another description that I hear about people like this is like they just overthink everything and take everything personally. They won't take responsibility for the work that they have to produce. So think about don't write their name in the comments or anything. I just want you to think about somebody that you know like that you may supervise. They may be a child of yours. It may be you. It doesn't have to be you. Think about that person. And so I'm going to tell you a story about myself related to this. I'm a lawyer. Obviously, I graduated from law school. I handle a lot of high pressure situations. And I found myself at one point in work feeling so overwhelmed by so much, just I didn't even know what I had to do, but it just felt like too much, that I realized that I probably was sitting and just feeling overwhelmed for a number of hours. Like I was thinking probably like 4 hours a day maybe was devoted to just feeling overwhelmed at work. I'm one of those people that I've been told I overthink things, or that I just like I think too much, or blame myself too much, take on too much responsibility, say yes to too much stuff. And that's how I've had people describe it about me. So if that's you, then I totally understand how that feels. Or if you know somebody like that, I totally understand how that feels. So I was sitting at my desk, and I was like trying to write out what I needed to do. And I couldn't even do it because I felt too overwhelmed. And I was just sitting and thinking, there's too much to do. There's too much to do. And the other thing that was going on with me was I did have some other cultural health issues at work. This was during the time that I was dealing with a sexual harassment issue. I was terrified of getting fired. And for me, it was all manifesting in all these different ways. But one of the ways was just sitting and feeling overwhelmed and like I couldn't get things done. So I realized I didn't even know what I had to do because I was just sitting and thinking that it was too much. And so I made a simple shift in my situation where I just I thought through, like, if I wanted to let go of overwhelm, what would that look like for me? And I realized that whether I decided it was too much or not, I had the same amount of tasks to do. So it didn't matter if I was sitting and feeling overwhelmed about them. I had one thing to do at a time. And so just that shift let me let go of the overwhelm and start engaging with my work again. It helped me feel neutral. And so I have clients come to me and say that they're just not good at time management sometimes. And what I tell them is that I don't really think we can manage time. Like the same amount of time exists for me and for Beyonce and for Donald Trump. Like we all have the same amount of time and we're not really managing time. What we're doing is we're managing our energy within the time that we all have. And for me, just shifting in that way and deciding to manage my energy instead of worrying about time, which is something that I don't really have control over, like helps a lot. Other things that I did were, I started to be concrete about what I had to do, make a full list of everything that I had to do. And then I would just say, I have 3 things on my list instead of I have too many things on my list, or I have 300 things on my list instead of too many. And just giving it a number reduced it to something manageable to me, something that I knew and could measure. So I knew if I give it a number, if I write out and label everything that I have to do, then I know what the reality is of what I have to do. Another thing that I've done with clients, especially clients who come to me and say that they're bad at time management, is when they're making a list, I have them include personal things, include meditation, include taking a walk, include playing with their kids on their list. And a lot of times they've never thought of that. They think of do the dishes, take the garbage out, like read my work papers, hang out with my client, like meet with my clients, but they don't think of play with my kids as an actual element of their to-do list. And so those things sort of start becoming an extra burden, like the fun things that we have to do, and they're really easy to let go of because we're deciding with our unconscious brain what to prioritize instead of with our conscious brain. And our unconscious brain always thinks we're going to die and is trying to keep us alive, right? And so it does all the things that feel urgent instead of the things that our conscious brain, our prefrontal cortex, has decided is important. So then you want to choose 3 things. Once you have your list that includes your personal things, you want to choose 3 things that are the top 3 things that are the most important. And so a lot of times, especially when I'm working with moms, they put a lot of guilt on themselves for choosing their kids over a work task, right? But when they look at their tasks with their conscious mind, with their prefrontal cortex, and make a decision, they consciously choose that their kids are the most important thing. So if that makes sense to you, just give me a thumbs up and let me know that it makes sense. Like I want to make sure that I'm explaining this clearly. So when we're deciding with our unconscious brain what is important or not important, our unconscious brain goes to scarcity, to saving our lives, not to playing with our kids and developing our important relationships. Our conscious brain knows that we're not going to die tomorrow, so is willing to choose something that is actually important, like our relationship with our kids, and then execute that instead of doing the urgent things that actually don't matter in the long term, that are actually not important. And so then when you're choosing what to put on your list and what, I forgot this part. Okay, so then you want to, just for fun, take things off of your list. And it has to be fun to take the things off of your list. But you want to scratch off anything that is not a priority to you. Just for fun, release yourself from anything that you don't want to do. And then you need to like your reason for what you do include and what you keep on your list. So a couple of reasons that come up that are reasons that people keep something on their list that you want to take a look at are you trying to manipulate other people's feelings and make them like you? Do you have things on your list that are geared towards making sure other people can't have negative feelings? If so, you want to consider that and consider whether that's serving you, because you're not in charge of other people's feelings. They get to feel negative feelings. So a lot of times I'll talk to employees who think that if they don't execute certain tasks, they're going to get fired. But really, they know they're not going to get fired. They're not going to have any negative ramifications for not doing certain tasks, but their boss might be uncomfortable, or their boss might have a feeling because their boss is, for whatever reason, dedicated to this particular task. So just be aware if you're trying to manipulate other people's feelings and where you can make some space for letting other people be uncomfortable so that you can be honest about and in integrity about your priorities and show up honestly, moving towards what you care about. Another thing that it's a similar thing, but if any of you have ever been a person who really likes to get an A++++ from their boss, you can raise your hands to that, because that is me. Like a lot of times we want to get an A+ instead of actually creating something effective, right? We want approval from our bosses or from our employees even. I definitely have a couple of clients who have that. We want our employees to be happy all the time. And so we want to get the A+++ as the good manager, as the good boss. We want to get the A+++ as the good employee, which often means doing tasks that are not working towards what you actually care about or what's actually productive. And so you just want to think about why and whether that's a good enough reason for you. And then, are you creating something that you are committed to? Do you have a compelling reason to create what you're creating, which can be the good reason, the reason that you like to keep the things on your list? Is everything on your list pointing towards something that you care about creating? So the next thing that I teach people how to do and that I recommend people do is be willing to be uncomfortable about what you keep on your list and what you take off your list. Discomfort is like the currency of creativity, of creation. Being courageous gets so much more done than waiting until you feel confident, until you can feel totally safe doing something. So this is usually the hardest part, is letting ourselves be uncomfortable about what we keep on our list and what we take off our list, but in service of what we know will be productive. If you have questions about this, put them in the comments. If you get what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you, just tell me you're nodding your head and that it makes sense, because I want to answer any questions people have about this. Something to think about with this is every time you say yes to something, a lot of times my clients never want to say no, and they tell me that they can't say no, that they just say yes to everything. And that is never actually true. Every time you say yes to one thing, you're automatically saying no to about 10 other things. Sometimes it's your health. Sometimes it's your kids. Sometimes it's starting a business that you really want to start and are passionate about. Sometimes you're saying no to your clients, to their needs, because you want to please somebody else that you work with, right? So be honest with yourself about what you're saying no to with what you're keeping on your list. And just again, if you like your reason for that, then that's good enough. Keep it on your list. The main difficult thing about being more productive is managing our drama and managing our thoughts. Anytime we're saying we're busy, we're overwhelmed, we're we're not getting things done that we want to get done. We don't feel productive enough. It's because of our thoughts. Busyness happens in our minds, not in the external world. Each of us can only do one thing at a time. And when we're getting stuck in one thing, it's because of our thoughts. So this is the main work that I do with my clients, is helping them manage their thoughts so that they can show up bigger in the world, create what they want, and make an impact. Overwhelm is not created, busyness is not created by your list of things to do. It's created by your thoughts. And then if you manage people, if you're an employer and you really want your employees to show up whenever you need something from them, to be available at night, to be available on holidays, to answer emails really quickly and respond to you right away when something comes up, I would just challenge you to be cautious about that. There's research around abusive behavior, anger, punishment at work. And I need to look more into these research studies, but I was listening to something about them recently. And the research was that when a person experienced one incident of like rudeness, anger from a person in supervisory authority, the person in the lower position, the employee, for example, was 20 to 25% less productive every time they had a negative encounter with the supervisor or a stressful encounter of anger, bullying. So you want to be really cautious about what you're thinking is productivity. A lot of times what we actually want is attention, not productivity. We want to check in. We want to be able to check in with an employee. We want to be able to check in with clients even and get attention from them. And that gives us a reward. So that is not productivity. Productivity allows people to take restorative time to refresh so that they can come back and be more effective. So be really clear with yourself whether you're wanting actual productivity, which requires planning ahead of time, which requires like deliberate focus on the tasks that are important, which requires you to take, as a supervisor, as a boss, as a business owner, you to take responsibility ahead of time for where the productivity is happening and where it's not happening. That's about productivity. Getting instantaneous response from an employer, from a client, from a coworker is not about productivity. It's about getting attention from them. So you want to be able to do your own work on the attention that you're wanting from employees versus the productivity that you're wanting to create in your workforce. Attention is an unconscious reward that we get. That fills our unconscious brain's need. Productivity is planned ahead in our conscious brain. It requires taking responsibility. It requires setting out the tasks necessary to be productive. It's always something done by our prefrontal cortex, not our unconscious brain. So I've been working with this client who has a master's degree, and she's kind of this amazing person who has had some abusive relationships, and she has 4 kids. She's been through some tough stuff. And she was telling me that just in our work in managing her thinking, she's been able to spend more time with her son, going to swim lessons. She's come up with multiple patents for her company because she's not spending her energy on feeling overwhelmed and feeling victimized. She's spending her energy towards creativity. She is shifting where she's managing her energy towards. But I talked to other employers, and a lot of times what they're saying to me is that they're hearing their employees make excuses or try to prove that their life is too hard to be productive. So if you've seen that situation, I think most employers, most managers have seen that situation. So employees saying, For example, one client told me she had an employee who would text her and talk about how being a single mom made it too hard for her to manage her time and how difficult it was to be a single mom. Which no one is going to criticize an employee for believing it's hard to be a single mom, right? But then I have this other client who is basically a single mom, but also facing abusive relationships and able to create these productive things. So we know that being a single mom as a circumstance doesn't mean it's too hard to be productive. But when we don't know how to manage our energy and don't know how to manage our thinking, it's easy to victimize ourselves, and that in itself is truly overwhelming and painful. We don't have to prove that things are too hard in order to give up something, in order to take something off of our list. We can just give ourselves that. You can just choose to take responsibility for taking something off of your list and giving up if that's what you want to do. Proving it's too hard, I see employees get into these tense relationships with their employers where the employer feels guilty for disciplining the employee for not getting their work done because they believe that it might be too hard for this employee. And the employee is so dedicated to how overwhelmed they are that that they're really effective in proving it, right? It just is so stressful for both the employee and both the employer. So in my view, it feels better to experience the discomfort of deliberately choosing to take something off your list than the discomfort of the overwhelm of letting all of your tasks be out there and not know what they are, and of burdening yourself with having to prove that things are too hard for you. They don't have to be too hard for you in order for you to take something off of your list and let it go. So now I want you to think back to the person that we dedicated this to. At the beginning of this video, I want you to think about their situation and whether any of these tips or tools or stories could be helpful for them. I want you to consider asking them to talk to me if they could be more productive at work, or you reaching out to get help. Or even just share this video with them if you feel like anything that I have said would be helpful to help make them more productive in their work. And I want to tell you happy Easter again. I hope that you have a wonderful day doing whatever you have set your mind to do and whatever is important to you, whatever you've deliberately chosen to be on your list.